welcome back to the Nerd Card. We are getting right into our 4 for the 4th.
Yes.
And this time we're going to be talking about the Prequel Trilogy.
Yes.
Prequels. Coming before
Absolutely.
the original trilogy.
Not after.
Yes. In the Prequel Trilogy, what we're looking at is the transformation of Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader.
Yep. And it's a same kind of theme as the original trilogy is the transformation of Luke Skywalker, his son, from a child to a man to a Jedi. This focuses on Luke Skywalker's father, Anakin Skywalker, turning from a child to a man to a Sith Lord.
Well, to a Jedi to a Sith Lord.
Yes.
It does indeed. And it starts out in Tatooine. Same way.
Tatooine, a very central location in the Star Wars universe.
Tatooine.
It is, which is odd because
It's in the backwater in the outer rim of the galaxy.
Right, it is not in the central part of the galaxy.
No, not location or logistically, but thematically it certainly is.
Absolutely, it is.
And as you said, we start on Tatooine again, where Anakin Skywalker, we find him as a child. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily what you were envisioning or expecting, but that's where we start the story. Because starting the story at the beginning, right?
Right.
Which makes a lot of sense in many ways. And we also, from the beginning, one of the things that was really exciting in the prequels, I think for most of us that were original trilogy fans, to start, if we started watching these before the prequel trilogy existed,
sure,
you got to see Jedi in their prime.
Absolutely love that. And actually, so we say it started in Tatooine, but we see it go to Tatooine throughout the story. Where it actually starts is seeing two Jedi Knights, one of which we're very familiar with Obi-Wan.
Yep.
Two Jedi Knights going to negotiate something, and they are at the peak of what they can do, and it's so cool to see that. I agree with you entirely. From watching the original trilogy, that's what I wanted to see, a Jedi Order that was actually in charge. Yeah, and we got to see that.
Broken pieces throughout the galaxy. They were the central peacekeeping.
Well, yeah, I think they're referred to as the Peacekeepers of the galaxy at that point. And I mean, so we get to see Obi-Wan, we get to see Qui-Gon Jinn, we get to see Yoda actually wield a lightsaber. And how cool is that?
When we move into the second movie, for sure.
How cool is that?
Yeah,
fantastic. It's just an awesome scene. And what really resonates with me about that first fight is that when he's through bouncing off everything and just, going ape like crazy, he settles back down. He uses the Force to pick up his cane and then hobbles away. Yeah,
like nothing ever happened.
Like nothing ever happened. But you can see that is how the Force flows through him, and that he gets all of that energy, that focus, that warrior instinct from the Force. And it's really cool to see that.
And maybe he has his issues, the cane. I mean, he's old. He's 800 some years old.
Right, at
but
that
maybe
point,
that massive amount of force, light side force, still has an effect on his physical form, like on the dark side, decays the Emperor. It would make a lot of sense as there's a lot of yin and yang with those. We
see that manifest almost instantly with the Emperor.
Yeah.
But with Yoda, obviously, it's taken its toll over time. And
later
maybe
side,
that's the difference between light side and
sure.
dark. That's a really cool part of it. I really liked seeing the Jedi at their height.
Absolutely.
And what that brings us to is the great lightsaber battles.
Well, you have the greatest lightsaber battle in all of Star Wars, in my opinion, with someone we haven't mentioned yet, Darth Maul.
Darth Maul.
With Qui-Gon and with Obi-Wan. Darth Maul, who would have been great to be the main villain throughout that trilogy. If I have one,
it would have been so cool.
That is the biggest beef I would have.
Instead, we got him heft.
Yeah, literally.
Literally.
In the extended universe, which we have another video up talking about that, he does come back and you see more Darth Maul, but I really would have liked to have seen him in in these films all the way through in all three.
Well, and he really should have been. He was hyped as that as they were being released, but I mean, just immediately killed killed because he wasn't killed. But
at the time he was, but we ultimately find out that he was not.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And Liam Neeson coming in to the franchise and just being the elder Jedi.
He has a particular skill set.
He does.
Are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
For Sith.
For people like that.
Yes, exactly. But he does a great job of bringing the gravitas to...
Absolutely.
To Qui-Gon Jinn, the master of Obi-Wan. Prior to Obi-Wan becoming a master, of course.
Right.
He does an excellent job. The one thing that I think is hilarious, especially... I mean, we're talking mostly about Phantom Menace at this point, but we'll get to the other ones, don't worry. Is the use of... a women's razor as a communicator. I can't unsee it. It's amazing. If you haven't checked that out, go watch The Phantom Menace. And when Liam Neeson is actually talking to Obi-Wan through a communicator, it's a women's razor.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a Gillette Venus razor.
Interesting.
That's really cool.
Interesting. Yeah. So the first movie focuses mostly on them finding Anakin.
Right, exactly.
The cool highlights, obviously, the pod race.
The pod race is great.
Which was, kind of to me, a throwback to the speeder bikes in Endor.
Oh, sure.
Just advancement of the technology. It's a really, really fun thing to watch in a movie theater, or if you have a home theater. The speeder bike, the bike
Chuck
races,
does.
like I do. It's a lot of fun to watch.
It is.
And then after they finally discover Anakin, you start to see where Darth Vader Genesis comes from. I mean, Darth Vader built C-3PO is a little strange.
It's a little strange,
get. But that's part of the story. Just showing again that Anakin was always very good as you can see when he's working in Watto's shop, right? His innate ability to be, his innate force sensitivity is there,
right,
as he can just fix anything.
Exactly. Yep. It's like he sees things before they happen, as Qui-Gon says.
And it also kind of, going back to even when we talk about the sequel trilogies, we'll talk about this in that video as well, but that also extends to Rey. Right?
For sure.
You see that in Rey when you first meet Rey. So this is like the beginning of that kind of that where they're showing that movement in this series.
With all three of those, so Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker, and Rey, you see a mechanical ability.
Yeah.
That's just kind of built in.
Innate,
yeah. Exactly. It comes in their DNA, and that's that. Now, Rey, of course, identifies as a Skywalker, but
as well she should.
She is a Palpatine, technically, but towards the end, she is a Skywalker. So maybe it's something within the Skywalker genes is something producing the Force ability. And in fact, we see that, and it's referenced in the prequel trilogies, which is probably the worst part of the prequel trilogy.
The midi-chlorians.
The midi-chlorians.
Well, I mean, I understand what Lucas's intentions were to have some kind of measurable to show of why you might have this ability, right, in science, but I think that takes away from some of the magic of the Force.
Oh, I couldn't
to
agree
have
more.
a measurable of why, and you notice they don't really talk about it that much after the first movie. I think there's probably a lot of backlash.
Well, there was a ton of backlash,
right,
and there still is, but it does come up at least one more time.
I know it does.
In the which we're going to talk about in the extended Star Wars universe, they talk about Grogu's M count, which is of course midi-chlorian.
Yes,
and that's so they're getting away from it, but they're not, which is probably a good idea.
Should we call him Baby Grogu?
Baby Grogu? That's what my son calls him.
I mean, because there was so much Baby Yoda and then it was Grogu.
It's Baby Yoda and then Grogu. I was trying to be correct.
Well, sure, I get that. But let's come on back to the prequels.
Yes, to the
here.
prequels. Yes, absolutely. We had plenty of videos on the other stuff. Go check them out. They're out now.
So, then we move into the Attack of the Clones, right?
Yes.
We'll really start to see what the Clone Wars, which when watching the original trilogy, when those came out, and you would hear interviews with George or read articles about, the whispered potential other Star Wars movies that George had written, the Clone Wars was always a central figure. Leia said it, you helped out my father in the Clone Wars.
Right.
To Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So in Attack of the Clones, we finally
start
get
to
see it.
Some inkling of the Clone Wars.
Right.
Of what's going to happen. You see these clones, you figure, so they cloned a Mandalorian. Actually, you later find out that he's a foundling from the Mandalorians.
Right, not technically a Mandalorian,
not a by birth Mandalorian.
Right.
And Jango Fett, and he becomes all of the stormtroopers.
Yes, he does. The original stormtroopers.
Which
of course, they varied down the road.
Sure, which then George retcons back in the new movies, every release that they've come out since. The voice of Boba Fett is now Tamura Morrison, who played Jango Fett.
Which is great. I love
and
seeing
Tamura
that.
Morrison plays Boba Fett now in live action.
Yes, he does.
So, it's he's kind of gone and tweaked those as those movies get continually tweaked, as we talked about in the other videos too. That continues on, right? That's an overlying theme. As we said before, George made this living, breathing document. And we really see that with the Clone Wars.
Well, and it's interesting, too, that we see more of Boba Fett as a child than we actually saw of Boba Fett in the original trilogy.
Initially, yeah, sure.
Which is kind of cool. And now we're getting to see a heck of a lot more of that through the Disney Plus series. The Book of Boba Fett's going to come out pretty soon.
Yep.
That's going to be awesome.
Yep.
We assume, of course.
But then on from the Clone, again, pull back into the Clone Wars.
We're getting back into the prequels.
And
made that
sorry
point.
about that. So then we start to see, we see Anakin now growing up, right? Really learning to use his Force powers. And one of the things that Yoda was fearful of is starting to become true.
Sure.
Is his anger.
Well, yes, and fear of loss of his mother, which we see very prevalently, unfortunately, because that's really his first foray into the dark side and really letting his anger take control is when he does lose his mother. He slaughters an entire camp of Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
That's the first we really see of it. And what he has there is Padme as his support, who's, I don't want to say she's encouraging it, but she's just trying to tell him, hey, look, it's okay. You're human. These things happen.
Well, and also Anakin is swayed by Padme's words more, even more, because he immediately latched onto her the first time he met her on Tatooine.
Yes, way back when he was really young.
As a child. And Padme wasn't much older, but he, now that they both started to grow up or grown up, he's very much still, he's never let that go.
Right.
And his goal is to be with Padme.
Right.
Which Jedi aren't allowed to do.
Exactly right.
And so that angers him as well. And all these things are the driving factors of what start him down that path and make him really susceptible to Palpatine. Well, I mean, Palpatine is
he says it's not fair. It's not fair. He says it a lot.
Who's a better manipulator than Palpatine?
No one.
Exactly.
Maybe Zemo.
No. Zemo would be a drone for Palpatine. Yeah, Palpatine is the man.
I don't doubt that at all. Palpatine started intergalactic wars because he felt like it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because he felt like it.
Yeah.
That's a master manipulator, no doubt.
He uses all these things to... because obviously he can sense the Force within Anakin.
Yes.
That no one knows that he is Darth Sidious, and Anakin being the chosen one, you are led to believe is the chosen one, for light and good and great, but really maybe he's the chosen one to just make it so that there's only a couple of each instead of a whole bunch of Jedi.
That's something I think is a big oversight. Is the prophecy said that the chosen one was going to bring balance.
Well, he did that.
Yes, he certainly did that.
He brought balance.
Because there was an balance. It was more Jedi than Sith, plain and simple, and he did bring that balance. I think it's silly that none of the Jedi saw that coming.
Well, and again, you kind of do wonder is how does Yoda not see that? I mean, it's the only answer to that is Palpatine was that powerful.
Well, the dark side clouds everything.
And Palpatine is that strong in the dark side that he was able to cloud it.
And he is. And we do see that quite a bit.
Especially in the other sequel. The sequel trilogy, I should say. And you see that in Revenge of the Sith. Anakin goes full dark side. The only thing I would rather seen, and I'd rather seen more battles with him and the Jedi than, stormtroopers taking Jedi off guard. That's kind of...
Yeah, the whole Order 66 thing, I'd like to think that Jedi would be able to hold their own a little better than they did. Yeah. Now, I mean, the stormtroopers of that time, the clone troopers, were really a more elite force than the stormtroopers later on.
Sure.
But at the same time, you're going up against Jedi.
Full-blown Jedi.
Full-blown Jedi at the height of their power.
Jedi Temple, fully trained, yeah.
Exactly. So it's kind of... I don't want to say it sounds like a cop-out, but it seems like it's something that they could have handled.
Yeah, but you also look at it, part of it is the Jedi had kind of lost sight of what they were doing. They kind of lost sight of...
That's a very good point.
What was going on. And I think that's part of what George is saying is that, they just totally lost their way. Right. And that's why they were able to be defeated. That's why Palpatine was able to rise to the heights that he did and do what he did, is because the Jedi lost their way. And Yoda knew it and kind of even gives up fighting Palpatine.
He does.
Just gives up.
He did not lose that fight.
He gave up.
He just gave up.
And, so Palpatine did more than just defeat the Jedi. He broke them.
Yeah. Without a doubt, that's exactly what he did.
And so, really, when you think of it in those terms, instead of really being mad that you didn't see and I'm talking about myself internally too. When I first saw these movies and grew and thought about it, instead of being mad about it didn't go the way that I thought it would have gone, really look at it from the story you're trying to be told. Right. And if you take it that way, it makes a lot more sense.
Oh, for sure.
In my opinion.
We talked about that too in the original trilogy video. Go check that out. But you want to be told a story, and that's the story as it was told. Yeah. Plain and simple. Yeah. Sure, the Jedi probably could have seen it coming, but if they had seen it coming, then we wouldn't have had Order 66. We wouldn't have had Darth Vader. We wouldn't have had any of those things.
Right. And it was cool to see, in Revenge of the Sith, to see Mustafar. Oh, so cool. Vader's planet, essentially.
And we don't see that again until Rogue One.
Right. And you see Anakin and you see Obi-Wan, and you really see when Obi-Wan talks about in A New Hope of how he, and in Empire, about how he failed in training Vader. You see that.
You absolutely
it's illustrated.
See it.
You see how Obi-Wan treated Anakin for all three of those movies. He didn't. He went about it a little bit too hard, a little bit of the wrong way. But he wasn't ready to train a Padawan.
No, he wasn't. He was thrust into that
Only
position.
did it because he promised Qui-Gon, and Yoda wasn't going to do it.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And so we see the repercussions of that. And really, Obi-Wan failed everybody, not just Anakin, but he failed everybody.
For sure.
With that, I think we're going to draw it to a close. That's the prequels.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk for a long time about
and we're going to. We'll probably revisit this at some point. But what we want to do now is remind you to check out the other 3 videos for our 4 for the 4th, and we will see you on the next one.
May the 4th be with you.
And what's on your nerd card?
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!